to Happy Wife, Happy Life. We're your hosts. I'm Kendahl Landreth.
And I'm Jordan Myrick.
And we are two incredibly unqualified,
but deeply in love comedians who are here to help you with all things relationships.
And on today's episode, that's right, I'm cutting you off, Jordan. I know that's usually your part, but I'm very excited.
Okay.
We're talking red flags. I don't know. I'm just excited to be here with you.
Oh, I love red flags.
Ooh, you like when people have a lot of them?
I don't like when people have a lot of them, but I like talking about them, and I like how we've talked about them as a society now, because I think people can have red flags without being bad people.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it feels very easy to be like, one thing's wrong with you, you're bad, instead of being like, that's a red flag. But also, hey, maybe it's not 100% necessarily bad,
right.
Or maybe that's not all there is to you, but it like alerts you to look out for things. So I think it's good. I like the balance we've hit about being aware and being safe, but also good. Not just like fully ruling something out.
I also think it makes you realize, you know, when people are like, oh, we're all the same. It's like you date these bizarre people and you think like, well, how would I have known, because he did these things that were so bizarre, but I didn't know they were weird at the time. They just felt kind of off. But now looking back, it was the beginning of something very bad. But then as people start to communicate, you're like, oh, all the red flags, there's like 20 red flags, and most of them are the same. And then there's personal red flags, like for me, where like things that are a red flag for me might not be a red flag for someone else. But like the general red flags of like this person's going to be a nightmare are pretty similar. So I think it's helped people identify stuff they wouldn't have identified before.
Did you have a red flag in your life this week?
A red flag in my life. What does that mean?
I don't know. I just kind of was throwing it out there.
I'll
Did
make it
anything
work.
immediately come to your head? Like, did you have, I guess it's kind of like rose and thorn, but it's like red flag, green flag.
Ooh, okay. My red flag for the week was when I was trying to be really cute and I slammed my knee into our washer.
Yeah, that was really funny.
I was trying to do a cute run and I smacked my knee on the washer so bad you can see the bruise.
That's from that?
Yeah. I mean, it was
Are
bad.
Are you sure? It didn't feel like you hit it that hard.
Oh, well, that's kind of rude because I went, ow, and then I like was holding it and was like, that hurts so bad.
Kendahl, anytime.
And then I limped away.
Okay, but you always do that. You always put on a production.
No, this is that.
That's a really bad bruise. No, Kendahl always puts on a little production when she, you know, if Kendahl bumps into something, she goes, "Dole," like Homer Simpson.
You always call me Homer Simpson. Well, no, because I hurt myself a lot. I'm very clumsy. But my
also
spatial awareness is horrible. Every time I walk into our living room, I hit my shoulder on the wall.
But sometimes you don't hurt yourself that bad, but you're like, ow, 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 because you like attention.
I love attention.
You really do.
And my green flag for the week was, you know, there was a lot, but one I'm thinking of was we were like sitting on the couch and we're doing what we call No Spend September, where we don't spend any money. We have spent money, but I will say it's felt more intentional. Our main goal was like, we want to be cooking at home more and we want to be spending money. Well, the goal was to not spend any money, but we really don't want to be spending money on little things. Like every time I go to the gym, I buy a water bottle when I could pack one. Bad for the environment. Also bad for the wallets. But on No Spend September, I haven't done that. I've been bringing a water bottle with me, trying to create a habit that will continue. We don't want to be driving somewhere and go grab a soda. Like, we're trying to be better about those purchases. But one night last week, you were like, should we get pizza tonight? And it felt very exciting. Like, it felt very like when you're a kid and your parents are, not that you're like a parent to me, I can get pizza, whatever, but we decided like we're not going to do, and it just felt really fun. And then it felt more intentional. It wasn't like, oh, we're getting takeout because we're tired and busy and didn't plan anything.
Or whatever.
We're getting pizza because we have stuff we get for dinner, but like we want to get pizza. And so it always just feels more fun.
And it was good.
That was some of the best pizza I've had in a long time.
It was from Prime Pizza, which is a chain in LA. I don't think they're anywhere else, but I know they're a chain in LA. It was so good. We got the grandma pizza, which I love. I love like a thick square of pizza.
Yeah.
So like a grandma slice, a Detroit style pizza, anything like that that's like nice and thick and square. I love that. And it was so good. It had like tomato sauce and mozzarella and a little drizzle of pesto.
And we got wings that were really good as well.
Yes, I branched out in the wings division, which I never do.
And a salad. What do you usually get?
I always get buffalo, hot or extra hot or whatever, but I'm always getting buffalo. I'm never getting barbecue. I'm never getting garlic parm.
And what did you get?
So the two options were buffalo or lemon pepper. And I also never get dry wings. So these were wet buffalo or dry lemon pepper. And I never, ever, ever get dry wings. But you and I were sharing one order of wings, and buffalo is too spicy for you, unfortunately. So we had to get lemon pepper.
Right. I didn't know you got the same flavor as me.
What?
I didn't know that. I thought you got your own.
No, we just got one order
That's
of wings.
Sweet of you.
Yeah.
But they were really good.
They were really good because they didn't taste, they were dry, but they were juicy. And they didn't taste like citric acid. It tasted like real lemon and real pepper, and they were salty, and they were so good.
So good. And we got a salad. I'm starting to be like, pizza is a healthy meal. I think I used to just like we'd get a Domino's pizza. Obviously, this tip is not really cost conscious. We used to get like a Domino's pizza, and it would be kind of like, okay, I'm having just like bread and cheese. But now that I'm like, I'm in the wings and salad world with the pizza, every pizza place. I'm like, do they have wings? Do they have salad? If not, I don't want to go there. And it started to be like, I'm getting my proteins. I'm getting my vegetables. I'm getting my carbs. I'm getting my dairy.
I do feel
this
like
is every single.
I do feel like your vision of food is very narrow. And then once something opens up for you, like a whole world opens up for you.
Right. I mean, I can't. I'm always open to learning, but I don't know too much yet.
I feel like you're the type of person where like I would see a recipe and be like, who is this recipe for? Of course you can put taco meat and mac and cheese or whatever, just something where I'd be like, why would this even be a recipe? Of course, it's not even a recipe. It's just like a thought that you can have.
Right.
And then they're showing us how to do it. But that recipe is
it's for me.
You.
It's
because
for
I don't think you're thinking outside of the box with food. I think you're thinking outside of the box in every other aspect of your life.
But not with food. Not with food. So that's my green flag. What's your red flag and green flag of the week?
My red flag of the week was... I didn't feel good last night.
I know, that was scary.
I didn't like that. I wouldn't call it scary.
Well, it was scary. You turned to me. You kind of always don't really feel that good. Like we both have some like autoimmune stuff, but you turned to me very seriously and were like, I really don't feel good. And that kind of freaked me out.
Yeah, I just didn't feel good. Well, it was weird. I didn't know where it came from. And it kind of was like an ambiguous feeling of not good. Like I was kind of like, do I have a fever? Do I have a headache?
Well,
is it my stomach? What is it?
The thing about Jordan, though, is every 3 times a day they go, can you see if I have a fever? And I usually will be like, do you feel sick? And they're like, I don't know, just do I have a fever? I'm like, do you know what a fever is?
I'm hot all the time.
But if you have a fever, you don't feel hot. Usually you feel cold or you feel...
Well, it depends on how high the fever is.
Just because our AC isn't on doesn't mean you have a fever.
Well, there's no way to know unless you feel for it. It takes 2 seconds. Just do it with a smile on your face.
But I don't know. I keep telling you, like, I don't know. I don't have the... You can't tell if someone has a fever by hand touch until you've had a baby. I'm pretty sure.
I don't... How? I can tell if you have a fever.
I don't know, though. Not like 100%. I feel like my mom has that skill and moms have that skill, but I'm like, I don't have that. I don't know. I don't know what is a fever and what's not a fever. Unless you have like 103-degree fever. Then I can feel you and be like, yeah, you're really hot. But if you have like 100-degree fever, when someone goes a little warm, I'm like, what? You can tell with your hand what's 98.6 and what's 98.9.
No, and no one's saying that. But you can tell what's normal and what's hotter than normal.
Not me. I can't. So I'm always just guessing. It's kind of just a song and dance we do. I'm like, just take your temperature. I don't know.
Wow.
What's your green flag?
My green flag is... Man, we've had such a nice week this week.
We really did.
Yeah.
Very peaceful week. That's the word I'd use to describe it, as like peaceful.
Very peaceful. I feel like okay. I feel like mine is I was on set for a couple things this week that all went very well and very smoothly.
I love that.
And I'm happy about that.
I adore that.
So I'll say
great.
To make mine different from yours.
You're right, because yours was also getting pizza.
I mean, along the same lines. So I'll say that I was on set for a couple things. It was good. It went smooth. Stuff's coming out soon. That's exciting.
And now I want to ask you, before we get into the red flags,
please.
What was a green flag when we started dating? Not like, oh, well, you were so sweet or what, but like, what was like a thing, like a red flag or green flag that
like
I
a random
did,
thing.
A random thing that you were like, oh, that makes me feel like good about Kendahl. And then I'll say what I think about you.
Well, my friends had you on an improv show at one point. And so I reached out to them when you first started following me. And I was like, who is this? And they were like, oh, she did our improv show and she was really funny. So that was one green flag. And another one, if I may say two.
You may.
The other one was that you kept DMing me. I said, I love confidence. I love tenacity. I love being straightforward.
Yeah.
So that was a huge green flag for me. And I feel like they've done me well because you are extremely funny and you are very straightforward and very communicative in our relationship still now to this day, 4 years in. So I think both of those green flags rang true, and I'm glad I listened to them.
My green flag for you when we first started dating is I think that you had and you still do, you have so many old friends. Like you have friends that go back, I mean, first day of college. You have so many friends from college. You have friends from high school. You just have so many friends that you've had like 10 to 15 year friendships with, which I find to be a really big green flag. Because I think I immediately knew like, okay, you're someone who can communicate. You're someone who isn't like really toxic after a little bit. You're someone who has, gives and has empathy and is good at relationships. Like I think that was just a big green flag for me. And I think it's true because I think it's easy to have a long-term relationship with you. I don't feel like there was never a big change from the way you were when we started dating to now. You've always, besides that we're like closer, but I feel like you're good at holding a relationship.
Yes.
Which I think is a skill. So that was a big green flag for me.
What was a red flag that you saw in me?
A red flag? A red flag do you have one for me? I'm sure you do. Let's just get it out while I think about yours.
I'm trying to think. You told some people that I wasn't friends with that we were talking after like our first date.
Yeah.
And they were weird about it. And then you told me about it. And I was like, what is this interaction? Why did you tell them we're talking? Those people are weird and I don't like them.
Yeah.
And why are you now telling me about it?
Sure.
So I was like, what is this?
Yeah, I think that, right. I remember that. That was weird. I don't know what I was, I don't know why I did that.
You know that was weird?
Yeah, I think I was just like, I didn't know how to be what I was supposed to say or what I wasn't supposed to say. And I was really excited. So I was telling people, but then I was like, I went on this good first date. It was also weird because we were in separate states. It was kind of a bizarre relationship because you had lived in New York and you knew a lot of these people, but I didn't know you from New York. And so I only knew you. So it kind of felt like, well, I go on a date with someone who lives across the country who no one knows. Let me go tell my friends that I went on this date, even if there's other people there. But I think the forgetting that you were also a person who lived there that people knew, it was just kind of a weird dynamic.
Yeah, I think I was more like, why are you hanging out with those people too?
Yes. Well, I guess that'd be another green flag for you too, is I love all your friends.
My friends are wonderful. Slam dunk. My friends rule.
Yeah, and there's so many of them, very like diverse in upbringings. Like it's not just a bunch of like, you meet someone, all their friends like, well, we all went to Northwestern together and we're all rich and we all grew up, you know what I mean? You've such a wonderful group of friends. Red flag for you was, I think, God, it's hard to.
You don't have to think of one if there isn't one.
I know. Well, I don't know if there was anything that was a red flag. I found you to be very, patient with me and my red flags. And I also found you to be you were able to make me feel like I could work towards being more secure and stable because you were very secure and stable. I think I'm trying to think. I really don't have anything. I
love that.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for apologizing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to make something up. I'm not making something up, but I'm sure there's things that, like, the only thing I can think is stuff that you did that annoyed me, but like, and we got into a tiff about, but that wasn't a red flag. I don't really think I had any red flags.
We were also in very different places when we first started dating, so I think that
it's hard for me to remember. Doesn't it feel so long ago?
It feels like 100,000 years ago.
I know. I feel like completely different people.
Yeah. Well, and I think that when we first started dating, you had more red flags and I had more green flags, but I feel like now you have more green flags and I have more red flags.
I don't think you have any red flags.
There's been a flip.
I will say I don't think I have any red flags anymore. I really am like, this makes me sound like literally I'm a narcissist, but I'm like, I used to have so many issues, but I also was very young. I was like 18, 19, 20. So, I was.
Not when we met, but
no,
yes.
But like I was very young when I had these issues with dating and stuff. And I think I really did a 180 where I just feel like I am really healthy. And I think even if like something were to happen, never will, but if something were to happen and I had to date again, I think I would forever be changed by our relationship, obviously, but just like how healthy I've been able to become, I think will be with me in all of my relationships for the rest of my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not just romantic is my point.
Absolutely.
Well, we're talking red flags today.
Obviously.
And I'm like, should we just hop into the cues? Because I bet we got a bunch, because there's a bunch of red flags that people deal with. I mean, I think it's like, such a different world now where you do have to be more aware of red flags. I think even back in the day, there were things that it's like, oh, people, that would have been helpful to be able to catch that person did this early on. Classics like, oh, when we got together, he was cheating on his current girlfriend with me.
Yeah.
Or like he talked about how all of his exes were crazy. Like obviously those are some red flags. But I think now it's even more so because, you used to date people you knew. It's like, oh, well, he's the mechanic in our town. It's like way back in the day. He's the mechanic in our town. So, my mom's known him for years and, the people in the town know him versus now it's like a lot of internet dating, a lot online dating. You're really going into the dark. Like that was what I felt so lucky with us is like we have mutual friends, which is comforting to literally just be like, they're not a murderer, right?
If I get murdered, people will know. Each one of us know that we were together.
Yes.
People know where Jordan lives.
Right.
Ways to be held accountable.
Well, but they know you're not really a person who would do that.
Hopefully.
Versus, I know, I guess I never really asked that specific question, so maybe I need to follow up. But I am like, with online dating, I remember going on a couple online dates where it was a jarring feeling of being like, I don't know anything about you. I don't know a single person you know. I don't know. You're telling me you go to school here. That could be a lie. I don't even know. It's very alarming.
Yeah, I had a distinct memory of like bringing a guy that I kind of knew back to my apartment, and we just like hung out for a little bit and like made out a little bit. But then at one point I was like, I don't know anything about this person. And I was like, you gotta go, like now.
It's really
scary. Freaked me out because I thought about it for too long.
Yes, it's really scary. So I think now more than ever, red flags are so helpful to just kind of like, and well, like I was saying earlier, I think we learned that it's just like, God, humans are not so complicated. And when you got the red flags and you've got these 5 red flags, that's enough for you to go and leave that person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's the first question? We asked you on Instagram, Patreon. If you're part of our Patreon, you can email us at hwhlpodquestions@gmail.com. We asked you all there and you sent in some wonderful questions. Just a quick plug before we get into it.
Do it.
Please join our Patreon. It's really not that expensive and it's a real blast over there.
Yeah, it's also the one way to support us. Kendahl and I make all of this content for free / pay money to make this podcast. And we are independent. We are not part of a podcast network. We do all of this ourselves with our producer, Blake. So if you want to support us, if you like us, and if you want more content, join our Patreon. You get a free monthly episode. You get ad-free episodes every week. You get early announcements on guests and opportunities to ask questions to specific guests, which the public does not get. You get giveaways. You get ticket. If we have tickets, you get to be notified about tickets in advance.
Yeah, and also, it's a small group over there right now. So once it gets, bigger, maybe we'll even do more stuff. So who knows?
You can also direct message Kendahl and I on there.
Yes.
If you're really just clamoring to talk to Kendahl and I, it's the easiest way to do it.
A little plug. Go join our Patreon. We'd appreciate it so much if you want to.
Speaking of Patreon, our first question on jealousy comes from a Patreon member.
Woohoo!
My wife always had a tendency to get jealous of my friendships, and I ended up having to include her in everything so she doesn't feel left out. Because of this, most of our friends are quote unquote our friends, and inevitably they will have a falling out as my wife has difficulty keeping friends. The problem lies here. Once my wife has a falling out, she doesn't want me to associate with that friend anymore because in her view, it's betrayal to choose them over her. I pretty much have no friends now because this has happened several times. How do I tell her I want to be able to have friendships that don't involve her without hurting her feelings? Is it okay to be friends with someone your partner has had a bad falling out with or doesn't like?
That is so tough because this is your wife, right? This is a wife. That is really a hard thing. That would be a deal breaker for me early on. And I think it's so hard to identify these things sometimes because everybody's had a bad friendship breakup. Like everyone's had, we've all had a story where we're like, you'll never believe what this person did to me. We all have one. But when you start, it's hard early on to identify, well, is this happening with every person? Why do you have a falling out with every person? That's a whole different level to unravel.
Yes, because either you're doing something wrong or you are only making friends with people that are not the kind of friends you want to be making.
Yes, totally.
And either way, it's not great.
Yeah. And so I think that is very hard. And I think I don't know your wife, obviously, but I can imagine a person who has falling outs like that is not maybe the easiest person to have a discussion where you sit down and go, I feel like I can't have any friends because I feel like you have fallings out with all of them. That's obviously is my first instinct to be like, well, sit down and talk about it. But I don't know if that person is a great, I'm sure there's some defensiveness happening. I'm sure there's like, oh, so you think those people are right. You're taking their side. And that is all bad. And I think you have to go to a therapist. It's like such expensive advice, but I'm like, I really think there's some deep issues there that go way beyond just friendships. And if now it's isolating you, I think there has to be a change because that you've got to have your own friends. You have to be able to hang out with your own friends. You have to be able to, have a person, not even about like separating yourself from your partner, but you need to have a person who is separate from everyone else in your life. You need to have your own individual feelings, thoughts, opinions that are not always like going through this other person. Because, I'm sure there's things that you say differently. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. Probably not. But I think there are ways you word things in front of your partner or anyone. If you have a friend who feels a certain way about something, you're going to talk about a topic differently than maybe you would with someone if you're just freely by yourself in your diary. You know what I mean? So I think if you're always speaking to friends through the lens of having your partner right here, who I think it's hard because I'm also assuming this partner kind of has a lot of, intense opinions, not very easygoing, it sounds like. That is just not healthy and not good. And it's hard because I know you know that. That's why you're writing in. But I think it is hard advice to find because that person has a lot. The advice is not for you. The advice is like, I need to give advice to this woman.
Well, I have advice for you. And you know me, I'm always going to give the blunt advice, but you have to sit down with receipts because I know the first thing your partner's going to do is be like, well, that's that person's fault. Give me another example of a time or like whatever. And if you sit down and you're like, I made a list, here are 30 people that I can no longer be friends with because you have issues with them. And it's getting hard for me to feel like, all 30 of these people have wronged you and you've never done anything wrong. And I think that sounds blunt, but also to me, it doesn't sound like your wife is being considerate to you.
No, but I think, the hard thing, I think you should really, to me, this is just my opinion, this is a make or break relationship thing. Like if you guys can't figure out how to deal with this, you can't be together. There has to be something. And divorce is a huge deal, but like you can't live the rest of your life without friends. Like that is such a make or break thing. So I do think you need to come in being like, because I think it would be overwhelming if I was sitting on the couch and you came in and were like, here's receipts of all these things. I think I would
don't think you have to present it like that, but I think you need to have them prepared.
No, I agree.
Because this person is going to want proof and you need to be able to back it up.
I think that makes sense, but I think you should preface by being like, the reason I'm bringing this to you is because this is really serious to me. Like, I think you need to set the tone to be like, I can't keep doing this the way we're doing things. I have no friends. I feel very lonely. I feel very isolated. And either we need to figure this out and I need you to work with me to figure this out, or we might have to discuss separation because you can't, that is not, that, I mean, that's, at the end of the day, it's abusive. You can't isolate. I hesitate, I don't know this woman, so I'm not saying she is an abusive person, but that behavior, you can't isolate someone from all of their friends and family. And that is a form of it. Even if it's not like, someone doesn't have to go, you're not allowed to see other people without doing that in a roundabout way. There's other ways people can control you. I think sometimes people have this picture in their head of a controlling partner that's just being like, you're allowed to leave the house 2 hours a day and you're not allowed to see this list of people. And it's usually not like that. That's kind of usually people who are really controlling do it in a much windier way that makes you feel crazy.
And sometimes they're not even trying to be controlling.
No.
It sounds like your wife is having a lot of really big feelings that I'm sure have nothing to do with you, and maybe is not realizing that the effect of what's happening does have to deal with you. And y'all got to sort that out. You got to have a frank conversation. But I would say don't be too worried about hurting their feelings because they're hurting your feelings and not too concerned about it, it seems. So lead with kindness, but if they get their feelings hurt by the reality of the situation, that might just be what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's a tough one, though. That would be a real deal breaker for me early on. I think like friendship is so, important to also get other perspectives in life. Like, there's so many times we have a conversation and you're like, well, I kind of thought that, but then I talked to this person and they had an experience in this way. And I think you have to speak to other people. God, if we just spoke to each other, you and I are practically, I feel like, the same brain. Like, you and I pretty much think the same. So if I only listen to you and hear what you have to say, like, I will not grow.
Absolutely. They will just cannibalize each other because we're so on the same page, which is great in so many ways. But you got to have community for so many reasons. You have to have community. Even just like anthropologically, that's proven that you have to have community. Humans are not solitary animals. Okay, we got another question from Patreon. Where's the line between something being not quite your style/preference and something being a red flag/concern? For example, I've heard people who are really into food and cooking say that a potential partner being picky would be a red flag for them. But for this person, they don't see it as an immediate red flag and more of a personal preference.
Yeah, well, that's like I said earlier. I think there are red flags that are general red flags that, like, if you said to a therapist, they'd be like, that's a red flag. Versus, like, if I was starting to date and I was dating a woman who was like, well, I think that abortion is murder, I would go, red flag. Someone else
You'd
might
say,
go,
red flag, check please.
Right, 100%. Versus someone else might go, green flag. That's a personal, and someone might think me thinking being pro-choice is a red flag. So I think there are also just preferences. I think there are some people who would find my cooking abilities a red flag. I don't think they bother you, I hope.
No, well, I'm good at cooking, so it doesn't bother me that you're not good at cooking. But as someone who's into food and good at cooking, I do think being a picky eater is a red flag. And there are things where it's like, I don't need anybody in the comments being like, well, I have ARFID or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not being a picky eater. That you got something going on. That's a different thing. I'm not talking about being allergic to gluten. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not talking about
who just want to try. You're very adventurous.
Yes. Someone who does not, I'm not talking about someone who's a vegan. I'm talking about people who just fundamentally are like, ew, yuck. I don't want to try XYZ, like whatever, like things that there's absolutely no reason why they shouldn't want to try. Like if you're a vegetarian, but you don't want to try different types of vegetables, more power to you. I think that you and I will have some difficulties because trying new foods is such a big part of my life and something I enjoy so much. Absolutely no commentary on you as a person. It does not make me think anything about you as a person, but to me, it's a red flag in terms of dating me.
You. But I think a lot of people wouldn't think this is a red flag. So I think it just differs. But I think you should know red flags that exist in terms of getting into a scary relationship. And then you can have a list of things you don't want. Like, I think you can be like, I'm trying to think of one for me. It's like, I would find it a red flag if someone was an intense gamer.
Sure.
I don't think I would date a gamer in general.
Yeah.
Because I just don't like that.
Yeah.
But there's literally nothing wrong. I sometimes play on my Switch for long periods of time. So it's honestly hypocritical. But someone who's like a gamer, has a gaming chair, literally nothing wrong with doing it. I just think I would not like that type of partner. I would feel like I want to be together more, watching something together, doing something together. I don't like how much time restraint is on gaming where it's like, well, if I need something, you're stressed out I don't like the anger that comes. There's a lot of stuff I don't love about gaming, but also it's not a red flag in the sense of like, you have to be careful. Those are just two different types of red flags. And if I really liked someone and I was on a first date and I was like, God, I really like this person. And they were like, I'm a gamer. I wouldn't be like, bye. Versus like other red flags I would. So I don't know if it's really a red flag.
No, I think it's a red flag. But I think the nice thing about red flags is that unlike us, you probably don't have a podcast. So you can just keep your red flags to yourself. And it doesn't matter how stupid they are. Do you know what I mean? Like, I do not want to date someone who wears a fedora. I do not want to date someone who like owns an iguana. I don't want to date someone, like all those things. I don't want to date someone who...
You know what's sweet, though?
What?
If you walked in on me holding an iguana and wearing a fedora, you would think it's so cute.
I would, because I love you very much. But on a first date, I'm like, whoa, red flag, you're an iguana owner. I am scared of lizards.
But you know what? They're flags.
Does not sync up. Yeah, that's what I'm
flags.
saying,
So actually, I stick by my gaming thing, because it's a flag. It's supposed to be, because everyone will have something. I think it's like, you don't need to run away at the first red flag. The point of the flags is like, flag it. flag that that's the thing that happened, flag see if it happens again, flag see whatever. So I'm like, yeah, if I was on a first date and they're like, I'm a huge gamer, maybe I'd have a little red flag go up for me because I'm like, I don't really want to date a gamer. Then maybe 30 minutes later, they say something like, I hate trying new foods. Okay, that's another red flag. They're like, I never want to travel outside of the US. Okay, now we have like an accumulation of red flags versus if they were like, I am just a gamer, and then everything else lines up. It's like, that's fine. We can differ on things or have different thoughts on things, and that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Is your partner convincing you to move across the country a red flag if they wouldn't do the same?
What do you, I don't understand.
So I want you to move for me, but I wouldn't move for you.
Well, that's hard because I think the location is the most important thing. I'm like, if I lived in Kansas and you lived in Los Angeles and we were deciding which place to go and you had a job in Los Angeles and I didn't have, I think it's like, well, yeah, I get you not wanting to move to Kansas.
But what if...
Sorry, no hate to people in Kansas.
Yeah, Kendahl, I love Kansas demographic is free. What if...
It's just a first date I thought of.
What if we both live in Kansas and then I get a job opportunity in LA? So we both move to LA.
And I already have a great job in Kansas.
No.
Oh, sorry.
What if I'm...
trying to help, but made it way more confusing.
What if we both live in Kansas? I get a job in LA. We both move to LA. Live there for a couple years. Then you get a job in New York. And I don't want to move to New York with you for your job, even though you already moved to LA with me for my job.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a red flag. I think, but, I think you just in relationships, though, should do what you're comfortable doing and not expect that exact same thing in return. I'm not saying you should just give and give and give and not expect in return. But I mean, we've talked about, okay, if one of us books a job in New York, if I really didn't want to go to New York and you got a job there, and I was like, I really don't want to go, and I'm enjoying my life in LA, I would not go. I would be like, we'll do long distance and I'll come visit. Versus if I was like, well, I'm kind of like, don't want to, but I want to be with you, and I'm deciding I want to go. And I'm going to go with you, even though I'd maybe rather be here, but I'm deciding I want to go. And I think once you've made that decision, it is your decision. I think if the person is being like, well, if you don't move to New York with me, I'm going to break up with you, I think that's a red flag.
Sure.
So if you've been together a long time, it's different if you guys are early dating and then you have to move. That's like a different thing. But like if you right now were like, I'm moving to New York for work, and if you don't move with me, I'm breaking up with you, I would be like, okay, that's literally insane. We can, if it's for a short-term thing versus if you were moving for like forever. So I think just don't make decisions you don't want to do and then hold resentment to that person, so that then when they're making a decision they don't want to do and they're like, well, I don't want to move to New York. Now it's like, well, you owe me one because I moved here for you. Because I think it is complicated. I think moving is a big deal. Now, if that's showing up in other parts of your life where you feel like in general it's uneven, in general I'm showing up and they're not showing up back, that plays into that. But I think if it's just moving, I'm like, that's a decision you need to make. And do not move somewhere, and you see this all the time. We just saw this in a movie we watched last night.
We just saw Speak No Evil.
Yeah, and she was so mad because she's like, you moved me here away from the job I love, from all my friends, from everything that makes me me. And it's like, well, bitch, don't do that. Why did you because you should not have said yes. If you were that upset by it, you should not have said yes. And I don't know if you had said that before, if he would have made you go. Because from the movie I saw, he didn't seem like that mean of a guy. So if you were being like, I would do anything to not have to go there. This is going to make me so depressed. Please don't make me go. And he was like, you should come anyways. I think that's a red flag. But I think don't go because you're like, well, I really want to show them how committed I am, so I'm going to move across the country and then expect the same thing in return.
Also, there are so many real life adult factors. It's like, let's say y'all are married, but it's his second marriage and he has a kid with his first wife and he wants to be able to see that kid. He probably has to stay close to his first wife so they can share custody of the kid. And that to me is a green flag. When I meet someone who's like, I was previously married, and I was going to say no judgment. I don't know. I guess I do kind of, I guess I would kind of judge someone for this if I were dating. If this is what you do, ultimately, I don't care because I don't know you. But if I was in a dating
got a different scenario.
Yeah, everybody, like, your business is your business and I'm really not affected by it. And I think whatever works for you is great. That being said, if I was dating And if I started dating a woman who had been married before and had a child, and I was like, let's move to Denver, even though we lived in New York City where her child was, and she was like, great, let's move to Denver.
Red flag.
Red flag. I'm like, why are you so willing to move so far away from your kid? How would you treat our kid if you had a kid with me?
But that's for you too, because I think it's a red flag in general, but I'm like, we care a lot about family. We care a lot about community. We care a lot about like showing up for who we deem our family. And some people that may not be as important to. I can't imagine, but like some people don't really care about that. So it's like some people are like, who cares? My kid, bye. And some people may not care, but to you, you're like, that is definitely a red flag.
I think that's a red flag. So I don't think the deciding to just be able to move because someone else moved for you makes sense necessarily, especially like with work stuff. Like Kendahl and I can only work in so many cities. So if there was a thing where it's like, you have to move with me to Reno, I would be like, I really don't want to move to Reno. Let's figure something else out because I can't work in Reno. I'm not a nurse or a teacher where I can just get another job in another city. I'm so limited. So I think there are things like that too. That being said, as Kendahl mentioned, if you feel like you are constantly giving up things for them and they're not willing to give up things for you, that is a red flag.
Yeah. Next question.
My phone's upside down again.
Oh my God, what's going on? Did you put the pop socket upside down?
No.
Yes,
Well,
you did.
I didn't,
it's twisted around. There we go.
I just never done that before on this podcast. Okay. She hasn't really dated anyone in 7 years. Is that a red flag?
No, I don't think so. I think that's a green flag.
I don't think it's red or green. I think it doesn't matter. It fully depends on the person.
I think a red flag, I guess to me, okay. Well, I think a red flag is when someone back to back dates people. I think that's a red flag.
But what if they're single for 7 years because they're like not putting themselves out there because they don't want to commit?
But then how did they meet me if they haven't been putting themselves out there? To me, it's
so
like... So
your theory is once they re-enter the chat, now they're putting themselves out there
and
again.
I think they're going to be in a way better place. I think they've taken... I think 7 years single, they've been exploring something. Whether it's they're hooking up a bunch, whatever they've been doing, they've decided now that's over and I want to move into this new portion of my life. That feels like a person who's coming from a grounded place, who's had a lot of time to explore themselves, and also you can ask them, well, why have you been single for so long? If they tell you that, that's great. If they tell you, well, I was in jail for murder, that's then maybe that is a red flag.
Something to think about.
So it's always, it's different from person to person, but I think my instinct would be, if I was on a date and they were like, well, I just got out of a relationship a couple weeks ago, that is a red flag to me. If someone says, I haven't dated in 7 years, that feels exciting to me.
I
feel like my first question would be like, well, what have you been doing?
That's very, very fun. Also, if you're interested in this topic specifically, we have a whole episode with Oscar Montoya, who you might know from Dropout or The Minx on HBO. And he was single for 10 years.
And what do you think? He was a red flag?
No, I think Oscar's 100,000 green flags.
Right, exactly.
Perfect. So... And he got back. So you're right. I was wrong. And he got back into the dating scene, and it's a fun episode. So you should go listen to that if this interests you.
I love him so much.
You're her first queer experience. No flag.
No flag.
No flag.
Unless she's making it a flag. But this is like with... It's just like with queer stuff, it's the same as every other thing. Let me explain. That sounds true. Doesn't make sense.
I'm listening.
But I'm like, in life, if you're in a straight relationship, you can start dating someone who seems really into you, and then all of a sudden they're like, I'm actually not into you. I'm into my ex. That can happen to anyone. So I think sometimes this big pressure is put on people who are starting to date in the queer area, where they're like, well, I don't want to go on a date with a girl because what if I go and then I'm like, oh, I'm not into her. And it seems like I was lying about being gay because what if I'm not gay? It's like, but that's everything. Every date is that. Every date I've ever gone on, sometimes 2 seconds in, I was like, okay, this is not going to go well. I do not want to be here and I'm not interested in this person. And that doesn't mean I'm not gay. It just means, oh, I don't like this person. So I guess sometimes all this pressure gets put on these people who are exploring their sexuality to not hurt the feelings of lesbians or gay people. But it's like, that's what dating is. We're all trying to figure out what we like, and people's hearts are going to get broken and that people are going to be rejected, and that is a part of dating across the board. So to me, I'm like, if she the whole time, and I've dated someone like this, if the whole time you guys are dating, she's like, I can't decide if I like girls or not. That's a red flag. She's clearly not ready to be in a relationship.
And that's not thoughtful to say to you.
Right.
So I think that that's something to think about, is the lack of thoughtfulness. And that feels like a red flag.
Yeah, but also this person has so much exploring they clearly still need to do. They might like girls in the end. Who knows? But you're in a place where you already know what you want. So don't date someone who doesn't know what they want. That goes outside of sexuality as well. So I think it's just about if they're showing up for you in the same way someone else who you're dating would show up for you, no matter what their sexuality is or how many times they've dated women. If they're showing up, being honest, seem interested, seem like they want to try this, maybe sometimes they get a little nervous and are like, I've never dated a girl before. Like, okay, I don't think that's a red flag or a green flag. I think it's just like you can never ensure anything in dating. And, you know, tomorrow Jordan could tell me they're straight. And that's just, I have to wait for that.
I also think it's important to remember any type of person can be bad at sex. And I think people get nervous if they've never had a queer experience before.
Oh my God, yeah.
Being like, what if I'm bad at sex? I'm like, I've had sex with people who have been having sex for years and years and are bad at sex. I've had sex with people that you think like, oh, this person's going to be a sex master. They're going to be incredible at sex. They're such a person who's like out on the town, bad at sex. I've had sex with people who I was like, there's no way in the world this person could ever possibly be good at sex.
Amazing at sex.
Amazing at sex. You just don't know. So I would say don't assume because someone's never had a queer experience, they're going to be bad at sex. And don't assume because you've never had a queer experience, you're going to be bad at sex.
Oh, yeah.
It's all just sex. You could be good or bad at it. And the good and bad can change from person to person. One person could think you're great at sex. One person could think you're bad at sex. Yeah. It's all a real toss up. So I would say get that idea out of your brain and just start going to town.
Next question.
I'm working on being less insecure, but is it a red flag that I ask, do you still like me or do you still love me every other day? Kendahl?
Yes.
That's a red flag?
You know, no. I'm going to call it what I would call a turquoise flag.
Huh.
Which is a flag I'm inventing that is not good. No, do orange. Vermilion. Okay. What's that?
Vermilion?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've only heard it in Coraline, and I want to know what it looks like.
Green?
All right.
Vermilion has to be green.
Vermilion. Okay? The vermilion flag. Look it up.
I'm looking it up.
I think it's not green because I think I remember seeing a TikTok where people went, you'd think vermilion is green.
There's no
actually,
way.
It's not.
Man, is there one singular original thought? Wow, okay.
What is it?
It's a bright reddish orange color.
And what would you think chartreuse is?
Purple.
Look up chartreuse.
It's green.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's what people said. They were like, and you'd think chartreuse is purple for some reason, but actually chartreuse is green.
Why do we think that?
I don't know, and it actually is deeply upsetting. Anyways.
It's a chartreuse flag.
The chartreuse flag is a flag I've invented that is something everyone in the relationship identifies isn't great. But it comes from a place of fear, and it comes from a place that does not have any ill intent. And just, it may not make either party feel good, but they can but they're both identifying it. They're both like, this is the thing I want to work on. And you work on it together. Versus a red flag would be saying, not asking, do you love me? Being like, you don't make me feel like you love me at all. You don't make me feel like you love me at all, even though they do. No, you don't. No, you don't. And I don't have a problem. No, if I don't feel that way, you need to step it up. That's different from someone going, well, I have a lot of insecurity. I have a lot of abandonment issues. I feel like people have gone in and out of my life since I was a child. And I have this fear because I love you so much that you're going to, fall out of love with me. Or maybe, your partner could have been like, or you could have been cheated on, or could have had a partner that really liked them. And then one day was like, I'm not in love with you anymore. There's so many reasons that, and so you can work on steps that aren't forever. You can be like, just for a couple months, when I ask you that, can you just be really sweet? And then we can kind of reconvene at this date and maybe figure out a better way that's going to make you feel better. Maybe you can identify and even word things differently, because I used to say this a lot.
I feel like you still say it, but you say it now for attention rather than security.
Right. I don't even usually listen to the answer, to be honest.
Truly. Yeah. Kind of will just walk in the room and be like, I don't even feel like you like me.
And
I'll be like,
away.
What? And then, is out of the room before I've even answered the question. I'm like,
I'm not
okay.
emotional, but it's not any emotional. It's kind of as a joke. I'm not emotional about it. And there's been times, recently, like if we got into an argument where I get anxious now, I'm like, oh, are you mad? Do you like me? Whatever. But I think, early on I was like, I want to try to reframe it instead of being like, do you like me? You can even say like, I know you love me and you show me that every day. I'm feeling a lot of anxiety today about like you falling out of love with me. So I could just use a little extra words of affirmation, if you will, on that. And I think like if you need to ask that every day, that's fine for a little bit. If your partner is okay with that. I just think that, but I don't think it's a red flag.
No, but I do think like Kendall's saying, you have to offer up some acknowledgement and some appreciation because it is annoying. It is annoying and hurtful when your partner is constantly like, do you still love me? Do you still love me? It's like, yes, of course. Like I'm treating you like I do. I'm telling you I do, but it still feels like not enough. And it feels like I'm doing something wrong. I think is a very common way to feel in response to that.
But also dig a little deeper because maybe the partner isn't doing enough. You were in mine was based on anxiety, but maybe you feel like if you really sat and thought about it, like, well, every time we're together, they're on their phone. Or every time we haven't gone on a date in a long time. Or we haven't this and this and this. But you're just saying, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? Because you're trying to feed that feeling in you. But maybe if you really sat and thought about it, instead of saying, do you love me? Do you love me? You could actually come to the table with some things like, recently I've been feeling like it seems like you don't want to spend a lot of time with me. Could we plan some or not, you don't want to spend a lot of time. It feels like we haven't been able to spend as much time together one-on-one.
Or even just like if you don't highlight it negatively, for me, I think it's just like, hey, I'd love to go plan a date soon. You know, I think like further down the line, if there's more issues, there's more issues. But if you're feeling really anxious about whether or not this person still likes or loves you because of your insecurity, I think pinpoint what that insecurity is. Is it you're not spending enough time together? Is it you're not getting enough words of affirmation? And then I think also highlight that to that person and be like, I could use more X. It's not your fault, but that's just where I'm at right now.
Yeah, but figure it out together and just communicate together. Because I think it is like definitely not a red flag, but it is not a flag you want to keep around forever.
Yeah, it'll be a flag in the middle of your house. And who wants a flag in the middle of their house?
That's exactly right.
And I also just pulled up some general red flag stories that I want us to say if it's a red flag or not. Okay, these are things online that people have said are red flags for them that other people might think are silly.
Okay.
So I want to see if we agree with them or not.
Okay, great.
Okay. This person said a general lack of information in a dating bio.
Red flag.
I think a red flag. I'm like, if you're going to do it, do it.
But if you're someone who's just looking to hook up, I think that's probably not a red flag. But I think it shows me you're not really trying to date someone. So someone who is trying to date, I'm like, if you have a full fleshed out profile, you clearly have sat and put time into this, you're sharing things about yourself that aren't sexual. They're like things about movies you like. That to me shows me you're like in a place to date. If you're looking to hook up, I don't think that'd be a red flag.
Okay. This person also gave some examples of things that they've seen in dating profiles that they don't like.
Okay.
That feel like a lack of information to them. So let me fire these off and you can tell me what you think. I love laughing and having fun.
Red flag.
Red flag. What does that even mean?
That is so weird. I don't know. That is.
I love laughing and having fun.
Yeah, that's a red flag. That person has never done either of those
That's
things.
a robot.
Yeah, that's an
a
AI
bot.
robot.
That's a
not
bot
real
that's hacked
person.
onto Tinder.
No.
Don't like them. My kids are my world.
That's not a red flag. That's a green flag. That's sweet.
Phrased that way?
Phrased that way. I don't care. To me, parents being cheesy about their kids is never a red flag. It is cute every time. You put on your bio, I think it's even stuff that I find eye-rolly and I laugh with you about when people do those posts that are like, baby Brian is 1 month old. He loves crawling and crawling at 1 month old, that'd be pretty impressive. But even those, I find them eye-rolly and cringe. I still think it's a green flag. It's sweet.
It's nice that they love their kids. Yeah, I was going to say the opposite, but you've changed my mind. I agree with you. I enjoy going out or staying in.
Yeah, red flag. Well, just don't put anything.
Don't put any, just have a blank profile without your face in it with your abs in it.
Right. Yeah.
Just ask.
Red flag. Any condescension, is that the right way to say it?
Yes.
Any condescension in a dating profile was always my biggest pet peeve. Do not act like you're better than me when you don't even know who I am. You're not even you're doing this to everyone generally. You're being rude by being like, I hate when people make me reach out to them. I'm like, okay, well, I hate when you make me reach out to you. Like, what?
Do you know what I hate too?
What?
When people are like, I hate small talk.
So
I'm like,
weird.
shut up. Oh,
so
you hate
weird.
You hate having pleasantries? You hate having polite?
You just want to get in my pants?
Yeah, you hate having polite, like, no stress interaction with a stranger?
Right.
What's so wrong with that?
Any judgment on your profile picture of other people's dating apps is so weird to me. And you'd see it all the time. People would be like, they would put, it'd be like if I put my opinions on red flags in my dating profile, where they would put things like, I need someone with an actual personality, not just like basic on their profile. I'm like, why are you going to this? Like, you are a queen, like you're the diamond of the season, and everyone here is begging for you to date them. Like, you just talk about yourself and stop judging everyone else for their dating stuff. Even though I'm about to continue judging other people.
That's okay. This is our podcast though,
Right.
and we're married, so we're not trying to find love. I think the way you're putting yourself out there to find love is through condescension.
Rude. Also,
Bad.
Newsflash, you may not be everyone's top priority on the dating app. So when you're like, just ask, it's like, well, I don't have time actually.
I'm busy.
Because I find you minorly attractive. So maybe I don't even want to reach out and take my time out of my day to ask you questions.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe if you seemed nice, I'd be more interested. Yeah. I agree. An over-attachment to their pets. Red flag, green flag.
Now, I used to have said green flag. But I found a balance after I went on a date with someone who had kept their chihuahua and a baby Bjorn.
And you were not happy about that.
I was not happy.
And to be clear, that was not me. That was someone else.
It pans down and you have our dog and a baby Bjorn.
Because I do have a chihuahua, and I did have a chihuahua when we met.
Loving your dogs is amazing. I've definitely a red flag if you're rude to your dog. If your dog,
big red flag.
That's a huge. I mean, that makes me worry about a lot of stuff. You gotta love your dogs. You gotta be sweet to your dog. If I ever saw you hit your dog, yeah, that's a red. Like, pop your dog for doing something. No way. But I think there is a line where it's too much. And it would be a red flag for me if I went on a first date. Now, I hesitate to even say it because I'm trying to set a precedent that it's clear we know I'm not a bad person if you're listening to this podcast. So, no, I'm not talking about service animals.
100%.
Or if someone was blind and they had a dog with them. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm
just talking about random people bringing their dog to like a brewery.
If I'm at a brunch date with you and you bring your damn golden doodle, I do find that to be red. And
red
you told me,
flag.
First of all, I could be scared of dogs. I could be allergic to dogs. I could have just had my golden doodle pass away. Who knows? Don't just show up with your golden doodle or your French bulldog and tell me I'm not into that. That is a red flag.
Golden doodle, red flag.
Well, right. Any maybe bot dog is a red flag.
Kendahl, I think that's a red flag.
But
I know people will have stuff
it.
To say about that, and I'm sorry. I'm not interested.
Well, it's a red flag, but remember, it's a flag. That doesn't mean I'm running away. But if you bought your dog and you go, well, okay, I was 17 and I bought this dog and now I love this dog, but I did buy it. Or if you're like, well, I needed it, whatever. There's obviously exceptions, but yeah, that's a red flag.
100%.
As two people who are literally obsessed with their dog.
Hold on. Using an exclamation point once in every 3 to 4 sentences.
Green flag.
Green flag. I do that.
I do that too.
It's fun. What's wrong with you?
You seem eager, and I want you to seem eager if you're dating me because you should be eager.
There's nothing wrong with that. Liking emojis and using emojis.
I've always have found any millennial coded thing very charming.
Well, you're very millennial coded.
I am. I'm still using crying laughy face emojis.
You're also literally anything that happens, Kendahl will be like, this is just like that episode of Friends. Do you remember where Monica and Chandler and then we'll tell you an entire episode of Friends, and the whole time
it's hilarious.
She's trying to tell you the story, but she's like, cause she's laughing so
can't
hard
even say it.
She can't tell you the story, and you're like, yeah, I've seen that episode of Friends. And she can't even get the story out, but she has to tell you.
No,
the whole
I'm
thing.
very millennial coded. More than you. You're much more Gen Z than I am.
Yeah.
So I find anything like that charming. I think anything done in good faith is sweet.
I agree.
Even if you're being when people post photos with their husband and they're like, day 706 with my other half. Do I think it's funny? Yeah, but also I'm like, it's sweet.
Yeah,
it's nice.
Absolutely. Someone who says, quote unquote, I don't do drama.
Red flag.
Huge red flag.
Because if you don't do drama, what am I going to be hearing about?
Yeah.
What do I have to be interested in?
Kendahl loves drama.
There's nothing better. To be clear, Jordan and I's relationship does not rely on drama. But I was the other day, we went to a movie and we were meeting at the movie. We were coming from different places and I had kind of this drama I wanted to talk about. Not even drama, but just something kind of crazy happened,
Kendahl was foaming at the mouth to tell me this.
And there's nothing better than showing up and being like, I have to tell you something. And there's nothing better.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I have a group chat with 4 unnamed people just titled Gossip.
I love that.
4 of my nearest and dearest. And I call it gabbing with your gals. I think there's a huge difference between talking shit, which is talking about things, talking bad about people, especially in a way that's going to get around. That's talking shit and that's mean. gabbing with your gals? That's
Cynthia,
disseminating information.
Why does Cynthia always do this thing? Cynthia does that to me too. What is Cynthia doing?
That's community care.
That's community self-care is community care, and Cynthia has to be out.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't talk shit about your friends and don't talk shit about things that people can't help.
Well, that's a different. That is. Want to talk about a red flag? When I'm friends with someone and they start shit talking their friend who they literally are with all the time.
They're like, I don't even like her. You're with her all the time.
Bizarre. That freaks the shit out of me because
I'm like, well, I gotta get out of this room now.
And I've told you before, there's been times I've had like a friend where then I like shit talk them to even just you because they did something that felt crazy and I like can't see them again because I'm like, I feel dirty. I feel like I like cannot hang out with you if I've like, rest assured, if I spend time with you, I don't shit talk you.
Yes, absolutely.
Because that is literally crazy to me. So anyways, my point is like gabbing with your gals when you're like, she slammed the door in Jessica's face. And Cynthia was like, this is why your dad doesn't love you. And then Jessica was like, well, this is why your husband slept with me. You gotta talk to your girls about that.
And this is a situation you overheard?
This is real, yes. This is
between, I mean,
it's fake.
No,
I'm just saying,
fake.
It's just a really dramatic scenario that's like, you gotta talk about it.
You gotta know.
That is the only positive to this situation is that we're gonna get to gab about it.
Absolutely. Someone saying, I suck at texting.
No, that's not a red flag because that's me and I am perfect. So no. Also, there's a difference between saying I suck at texting and I will not be working on my texting. Those are very different things. You can't just say something and then never hold accountability. Like if you text me, you need information from me. Like, Kendahl, have you walked the dog? And I don't respond. Well, you probably just take her on another walk. But it's like there are people in life you need to like communicate with. So you can be like, I say all the time, I am bad at texting. I read a text and forget to respond for like 6 months at a time. But that's not okay. I'm like working on it. So I think those are different. But I don't think it's a red flag.
I think it's a red flag. And I know you do it, but I think it's a red flag. You never said it though. Like some people will just be like, I'm bad at texting. I'm like, okay, I'm bad at dating you. Goodbye. That's how I feel about it.
I think I find it to be sometimes nice because I think it's someone who doesn't like spend a ton of time on their phone.
Yeah. Bad grammar.
Not a red flag.
No flag. Who cares? If you know what is a red flag? You know what is a red flag?
Correcting people's grammar.
Someone who's obsessed with grammar.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Right.
Relax. Not everybody comes from the same background or the same education. Chill.
Yeah.
Disgusting. I hate it.
Kind of like when I do the captions on our videos and you say that I do the wrong there every time.
So that's different, Kendahl. That's we're married and that's for a business that we have together.
People know when they read there, they know what it is. And I hate those stupid Facebook posts.
My biggest pet peeve is people don't know what there.
Okay. Yeah, guess what? Literally, it doesn't matter. Like, actually, nothing's ever mattered less. Why have you decided the number one thing that pisses you off when people write THEYRE instead of THEIR?
Ooh,
God, that used all my brain power.
I was about to say, we are skating on thin ice.
Why is that your biggest pet peeve? Really think about it. Is it because you're a control freak and you think you're better than everyone? Oh, you went to Brown? Okay. I don't care. Like, it actually doesn't make you cooler or better than anyone.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm still cooler than you. Sorry.
And
I'm famous on the internet. I'm cooler than you. And I don't know what there is there and what there and how to say it. I don't. But I have money and I'm fine and I am famous. Sorry.
So if you want to help Kendahl not be so defensive, or if you want the captions on our social media clips to be better, you can join our Patreon, which will help for Kendahl maybe to eventually go to college. Who knows? Kendahl's got a bunch of learning disabilities, never went to college. Cut her some slack, you know? She's still perfect in every other way. Self-deprecating humor, red flag or green flag?
I think red flag to... First of all, is it really funny? I think...
Is it funny? Kendahl's 100% right. Is it funny? If it's funny, green flag. If it's not funny, red flag.
Because I've dated, and this has been a breaking point. I've dated people, gone on a couple dates where it's too much. Because it's not self-deprecating humor. Them going, well, sorry, I didn't know what to wear today because I'm such an ugly piece of shit. That's actually not self-deprecating humor. That's
it's actually not humor at all, some would argue.
It's not funny. It's actually deeply sad and really alarming. But I think a little bit of self-deprecation can be funny and fun, especially when you first start dating. You want to be like, oh, well, yeah, who am I to say? You know, I think that's all fun, but too much is just, it's not a joke. It's just you hating yourself, and that's sad, and you shouldn't date anyone. You should go to the mirror and say some nice things to yourself.
Country music.
No flag. And I know you think it's a red flag, but I think it's a green flag. I think it means they're, know how to have a good time.
I think it depends on the country music artist.
Oh, come on.
Sorry, I do. I think if you like a female country artist, for the most part, green flag. Most male country artists, red flag.
Okay.
I said it. That's my truth. That's my truth. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that is my truth. If I see in someone's interest on a dating profile that they like Dolly Parton, green flag. If I see that somebody likes, I don't know, any male country singer other than
because you're thinking
Keith
of Dolly
Urban.
Parton and the Chicks, which are the gayest. You can't
You
just
can
only
like Keith
gay.
Urban, Nicole Kidman's husband.
That's gay. He's married to Nicole Kidman.
Okay, well,
You can't just like gay people.
But none of them are gay. None of them are gay. They just make me
They
feel
are
gayer than I do
are
already.
Gay icons. Keith Urban is not really a gay icon, but he's married.
He's gay icon adjacent.
He calls Nicole Kidman during his concerts. That is the gayest thing I've ever heard.
That's true.
But you can't. But I think country music. Yeah, I think if someone was like obsessed with it and went to like all the concerts, I would be like. But it's hard because my assumption is now you're a Republican, but maybe that's not fair.
Okay.
So that's why it'd be a red flag to me, but maybe I need to look inward.
I don't have enough reference points right now because I don't know enough names of male country singers to like illustrate my point. My impulse is to say Luke Bryan. Is Luke Bryan bad? I hear his name a lot.
I don't know anything about any country singer.
Drop in the chat what male country singers are bad so I can know this for future reference. You post photos of your car.
Red flag.
Red flag.
You definitely will. I will have to get a restraining order against you eventually if we start dating.
Yeah. Okay. This person has a long list, so just say yes or no. These are all types of photos on dating profiles that this person thinks is a red flag. Person fishing.
Red flag.
Red flag. Finishing a race.
Green flag.
Green flag. Neutral flag for me. Riding a motorcycle.
Great. Red flag.
Red flag. Skiing downhill.
Green flag.
Green flag. Sledding.
Green flag.
Green flag. You can't
50
sled.
green flag.
Skydiving.
It depends on the other photos.
Photo in bed shirtless. In a hotel or motel room or bathroom.
Well, on a lesbian's, that's a green flag.
That's a huge green flag. That's a confident lady.
Man, red flag.
Okay. Let's see.
What do you think?
Oh, shirtless photos?
Yeah.
I think it depends on what you're looking for.
It's hard because if you got it, flaunt it.
But everybody's got it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, if you feel like flaunting it, flaunt it. But I don't date men. So I think, yeah, for men, it feels a little bit like a red flag. But if I came across a woman on a dating profile that just had a fully topless photo of herself.
Her name's Diane.
I'd simply have to swipe right.
Well, that's the thing with women.
To.
It's like no matter what they do, you're like pop off. Because like,
okay. So what's the number one red flag for women?
If they have the Snapchat kitty cat filter on their dating profile. Huge red flag.
Absolutely.
What is wrong with
huge?
It's like all of them are just selfies of them with like devil's ears. Mm-hmm. It's like, and the lighting is horrible.
Yeah.
That's a red flag for me. What about you?
I think a red flag for me personally is too many hypersexual photos in a dating profile.
Yeah.
Not because I think there's anything wrong with it, but I think if you can only include 6 photos and 4 of them are photos of you like intentionally trying to be really sexy in like panties, I'm like, we probably have different interests is what it feels like a little bit.
Also, if they're all of you at the top of a trail, that's a red flag for me.
Okay.
Because I don't want to be at the top of a trail that much. If there's one photo of you hiking, I love that you're active. I love that you like to get outside.
Yeah.
But if they're all hiking photos, that probably is not going to fly with me.
On the other side of that, photo smoking a cigarette.
Right. I'm going to assume this is you showing your best self. So when it's you in a dirty bathroom holding a cigarette in like stained bra and panties. This is a picture I've seen.
Wow.
I'll show it to you later.
I'm thinking of someone like at a party smoking a cigarette, and to me that tells me that you think that's cool. And it's kind of like I don't necessarily think it's a red flag to smoke cigarettes. I'm kind of like, that's your business, depending on how serious we're dating. That being said, if you're posting a photo of you smoking a cigarette, I'm like, that's something I would have done sophomore year of high school because I'm like, smoking's cool.
Yeah.
Because I'm a child and I've never I don't know anyone who's died. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's what it feels like. Just like fully not aware of your mortality. So you think this thing is cool. And I'm like, if you're in your 30s and still think posting a photo where you're smoking a cigarette is cool, that's a no for me.
Also, I guess if they put moderate. Honestly, moderate feels so funny to me because I'm like, then don't put it on your profile.
Moderate's embarrassing.
Then don't put it on your profile because what are you? To me, what it always is, and it'd be different if it wasn't always this, because I think having critical thinking is great. But if it's always someone who thinks they're fucking better than you. That's what a moderate is. Always someone who
it's always someone who's
so
able to be like, I actually am able to see both sides, unlike some of you sheeple, like that kind of vibe.
They've voted the same every year for the last 40 years, but they want you to know that they also think a thing they assume no one else does.
Yeah, and it's like, also kind of that vibe of like, yes, I vote Democrat, but if there was a Republican I loved, then I'd vote for them. It's like, yeah, most people feel that way.
Right.
Like most people feel that way. Especially young, you know what I mean? Like most young people especially feel that way, where it's like, oh yeah, if there was one candidate that like I absolutely loved, I would vote for them regardless of party. That being said, doesn't really happen that often. Right. So I think that's something to think about.
Well, that's I feel like if someone says moderate in their profile, they're going to be someone who like on our first date is like, oh, that's interesting. Where did you read that? TikTok? Yeah, that's not a real article.
100%.
And I'm like, actually it is, because I can't read. So I'm just kidding.
So I have to listen to people say it to me.
So yeah, the 13-year-old on the internet who gives me political information is news. Yeah. So that's weird.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like the type of person that would be like, oh, yeah, I don't know. I don't really listen to that kind of music. You know what I mean? Like that type of person.
Right.
Oh, I don't know. I've never heard that song. I don't really. Oh, did you say television?
Yeah.
I don't really watch TV.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, that's because you watch 800 hours of YouTube videos a week. In no way, shape, or form are you better than me.
100%.
This felt cathartic.
Take my hand.
I love you.
I love you too.
All right. Well, happy Monday, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And as always, check out our Patreon. You can follow us on Instagram, on TikTok.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're listening. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah.
If you're on Spotify, where we film at the Spotify offices, if you're on Spotify, make sure to rate and review. If you're on Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, really.
Yeah.
And leave us a review, please. Helps us so much.
Yeah. And I should say a positive review.
Please.
If you're thinking about leaving a negative review, just don't leave one.
If you're from Kansas or you're a moderate from Kansas, don't get fired up. I still love you and I appreciate you listening.
Just send Kendahl a personal message that you're upset. Don't leave a public review, okay?
Please. And I do love I have not even spent much time in Kansas, but I want to go.
All right. City of Kansas. Oh my God.
City of Kansas. Are you here tonight?
What's it called? It's not a city and it's not a country.
A town?
A state. There we go. I found it.
A state. Kansas is a state.
All right. Kansas, you're a state. And if the state of Kansas Commerce wants to contact us, we'll come on a PR trip there. Happily. We'll film an episode
Jordan
there.
will find any way to pitch a brand deal with someone. I'm like, oh, I got to put on my shoes. Shoes. Anyone, general shoe salesman.
Listen.
Get on the pod.
We don't have a huge backup plan, so we got to try to make money while we can.
Thanks so much for being here. We love you. Have a wonderful week. And just make sure to keep an eye out for those red flags.
Bye.